In the quiet corners of Havenwood, a silent fear began to grow. A young girl, navigating a world without sound, found herself at the mercy of an unsettling presence. His watchful gaze, his persistent proximity. It was a shadow she couldn't outrun. Until, one desperate afternoon, in the heart of their unsuspecting town, a deaf girl signed to a black single dad, "He won't stop following me." What he did next shocked everyone. This is the story of an unspoken plea, a father's unwavering protection, and a moment that redefined compassion in a way no one saw coming. You clicked on this story because you understand that sometimes the most profound dangers aren't loud or obvious. They're whispers, lingering shadows, and persistent anxieties that chip away at a sense of safety. Today, we delve into a true tale of quiet vulnerability meeting unexpected strength, where the bond of humanity transcended expectation and a father's heart became a fortress against an unseen threat. Stick with us, because this isn't just about a moment, it's about the ripple effect of one man's courage and a community's awakening. Havenwood was the kind of place where time seemed to move a little slower, a town nestled among rolling hills, where the scent of changing seasons lingered in the air, and community was more than just a word, it was a living, breathing entity. In this unassuming backdrop, our story begins, introducing us to lives that, while seemingly ordinary, held extraordinary depths. Meet Asher Vance. His hands, capable and kind, with a backbone of Vance Woodworks, a small, reputable carpentry shop on the edge of town. Asher crafted everything from intricate heirloom pieces to sturdy furniture, each creation reflecting the quiet integrity of the man himself. But more than wood, Asher's true masterpiece was his daughter, Amani. A decade prior, life had taken an unexpected turn when Lysandra, Amani's mother and the vibrant heart of their home, had succumbed to a rare autoimmune disease after a prolonged and arduous struggle. Asher had nursed her with unwavering devotion, a journey that had deepened his empathy and understanding of life's fragile beauty. That experience had forged in him a profound patience, a quiet strength that emanated from his very being. Now, Amani was the bright center of his world, and Asher, a widower, navigated fatherhood with a gentle resilience that spoke volumes. A few blocks away lived Elara Finch, a 12-year-old artist whose world unfolded in a symphony of sight and touch. Born profoundly deaf, Elara communicated through the articulate dance of American Sign Language, her sketchbooks filled with vivid drawings that captured Havenwood's essence in a way no spoken word ever could. Her mother, Lena, a dedicated healthcare aide, often worked long, exhausting shifts to provide for them. Elara's father had passed suddenly from an unpredicted aneurysm when she was a toddler, leaving Lena to navigate the heavy burdens of single parenthood and raising a child with special needs. Lena loved Elara fiercely, but the relentless demands of her work often left her weary, sometimes making it difficult to perceive the subtle shifts in her daughter's inner world. Asher and Elara's paths first crossed through their daughters. Amani and Elara both frequented the local library, Elara drawn to art books, Amani to tales of adventure. Amani, naturally curious and open-hearted, had noticed Elara's graceful hands signing, and with her father's encouragement, had begun to learn basic ASL. Soon the girls would share quiet conversations, Amani signing slowly, Elara patiently correcting her, a sweet bond forming in the silent space between them. Asher, picking up Amani, would sometimes pause to observe Elara, admiring her focused intensity as she sketched. He'd even exchanged signed greetings with Lena and offered a few small, uncharged repairs around her older house, quiet acts of neighborly kindness in the gentle rhythm of Havenwood. It was around this time that a new, subtly unsettling rhythm began to weave its way into the quiet tapestry of Havenwood, a rhythm that, at first, went unnoticed by most, but struck a discordant note in Elara's sensitive world. Meet Mr. Silas, an older man, retired from a job no one could quite recall, known for his solitary walks. At first, his presence was benign, a familiar figure in the background, a part of Havenwood's scenery. But then, Elara began to notice him more. He'd be on the same bench when she left the library. He'd be walking the same path when she headed for her drawing class. He didn't speak to her, which was unusual for Ilara, but his gaze, she realized, was always fixed on her. The attention shifted from casual observation to something more pointed, more persistent. He'd offer her small, brightly colored stones or a wilting flower picked from a public garden. His smile seemed a little too wide, his eyes a little too unblinking. Ilara, instinctively, would recoil, signing a polite "no, thank you" if Lena was nearby, or simply shaking her head and retreating if she was alone. The gifts were never overtly threatening, but the persistence, the way he seemed to find her, began to chip away at her sense of security. Her bright, expressive eyes started to cloud with unease. How could she explain that a man wasn't doing anything wrong, but felt so profoundly off? Lena, burdened by long shifts and the anxieties of medical emergencies, would notice Ilara's quieter demeanor, but attributed it to typical pre-teen moodiness, or perhaps the exhaustion that sometimes came with navigating a world without sound. Ilara, struggling to articulate the creeping, nebulous fear of someone simply watching her, couldn't find the words, or rather the signs, to convey the specific, unsettling dread. It's a terrifying thing to feel unsafe, but even more so when you can't articulate why. She began to take circuitous routes home, her shoulders hunching slightly, constantly checking over them. Her sketches, once so vibrant, grew darker, featuring anxious figures lurking in shadows. It was a silent cry, a visual diary of her burgeoning fear, but one that went unread by those too close, too busy, or perhaps simply unequipped to look beyond the surface. While Ilara's fear remained largely unspoken and unseen by many, there was one who, through a lifetime of quiet observation and deep empathy, began to notice the subtle cracks appearing in Havenwood's peaceful facade. Asher, however, noticed. His carpenter's eye, trained to pick up on the smallest structural flaws in wood, also registered the subtle shifts in the human landscape of Havenwood. He saw Ilara, usually so gracefully independent, now moving with a newfound hesitancy. He saw Mr. Silas's loitering. He saw the older man's gaze follow Ilara, not just once, but multiple times. A knot began to form in Asher's stomach, a paternal instinct stirring for a child who was not his own, but who carried a quiet vulnerability that resonated deeply with his own past experiences. Asher's past wasn't just a memory, it was a lens through which he viewed the world. He remembered Lysandra's illness, the slow, agonizing decline, the way her strength faded day by day. He remembered how he'd learned to read the unspoken in her eyes, the minute shifts in her breathing, the subtle signs of pain or comfort. That arduous journey, marked by unwavering devotion and profound loss, had etched an indelible lesson into his soul, the importance of truly seeing another struggle, especially when they couldn't voice it. It was this past that now sharpened his awareness, making him acutely sensitive to the quiet anxiety emanating from Ilara. He understood that some pain, some fear, existed beyond the reach of words. Have you ever felt a protective instinct awaken for someone who wasn't your own, driven by a deeper understanding of vulnerability? Share your thoughts and experiences in the comments below. Your stories build our community. Driven by this burgeoning concern, Asher began to unconsciously, then consciously adjust his routines. His errands often coincided with Ilara's movements. He'd make sure his truck passed by the park during her drawing sessions, or linger a little longer outside the library. He became a silent, unseen guardian, not wanting to alarm Ilara, but needing to ensure her safety. He saw a moment where Mr. Silas seemed to gather himself to approach Ilara, but Asher's distant presence, his simple proximity, seemed to deter him. The older man would simply turn away, fading back into the shadows. Asher might have been working with wood, but his deepest instinct was to protect, and Ilara, in her quiet vulnerability, had unknowingly carved a place in his protective heart. That warm autumn afternoon, Lena found herself caught in an unexpected hospital delay. Her voice, weary but apologetic, explained to Ilara that she would be late, leaving the 12-year-old to wait. This unforeseen delay, a common occurrence in Lena's demanding profession, reinforced Ilara's reluctance to burden her mother with her nebulous fears. It confirmed in Ilara's mind that she was on her own. Ilara had just finished her drawing class, her backpack heavy with charcoal and paper. She sat on a bench, sketching the town's clock tower, trying to distract herself from the growing unease she felt waiting alone. The familiar surroundings, once comforting, now felt exposed, the open space amplifying her vulnerability. Then Mr. Silas appeared. He emerges from the shade of a maple tree, moving with a deliberate slowness that unnerved Ilara more than any haste. In his hand he holds a small, intricately carved wooden bird, its eyes painted a startling blue. His smile is wide, fixed. He walks directly toward Ilara, his gaze unwavering solely on her. Every step felt like a drumbeat in Ilara's silent world. Ilara's breath hitched. Her hands, usually so fluid, trembled. She knew this feeling, the feeling of being cornered, of being seen in a way that felt wrong. She looked around desperately. Other people were in the square, but they were chatting, absorbed in their own worlds. No one seemed to notice. Panic bloomed in her chest, a silent scream building within her. Just as Mr. Silas extended the wooden bird toward her, Asher's truck pulled up across the square. He was there to pick up a special order of hardware from the antique shop. He had just stepped out, about to retrieve his package, when his eyes instinctively scanned the square for Ilara. He saw her, frozen on the bench, her face a mask of profound distress. He saw Mr. Silas closing in. Asher dropped the box of heavy brass hinges with a clatter. The sound, though Ilara couldn't hear it, seemed to break the terrifying spell. Her head snaps up, her eyes wide, darting wildly until they lock onto Asher. A raw, desperate flicker of hope ignites in her gaze. In that moment, across the expanse of the square, a connection was made, a plea understood before a word was spoken or a sign was given. What happened next would forever be etched into the memory of Havenwood, a moment of raw vulnerability met with an unexpected display of courage that transcended all expectations. She scrambled off the bench, leaving her sketchbook behind, and rushed towards him. Asher met him halfway, his arms already reaching out, his posture communicating a silent promise of refuge. As she reached him, her small hands flew, a flurry of urgent, terrified motion, signing with an intensity that cuts through the air. He won't stop following me. Her eyes, wide and filled with unshed tears, pleaded for understanding, for rescue. It was a silent cry that resonated with a depth far beyond words, carrying the weight of weeks of unspoken fear. Asher pulled Ilara gently to his side, one arm wrapping securely around her small shoulders, shielding her. He didn't shout, he didn't rush at Mr. Silas. Instead, Asher turned, his tall frame radiating a quiet, formidable presence. He looked directly at Ilara, his eyes meeting hers, and with clear, deliberate ASL, he signed back to her, his voice low but firm, resonating with an unspoken promise. "You are safe with me, Ilara. Always, I promise." He then added audibly, his voice carrying just enough to be heard by those closest, "No one will harm you here." It was a declaration of sanctuary, clear and absolute. This moment reminds us that sometimes actions speak louder than words, and true compassion requires seeing beyond the surface. If this powerful scene resonated with you, hit that like button to share the power of empathy. Then, Asher turned his unwavering gaze to Mr. Silas. His expression is calm, devoid of anger, but filled with an undeniable authority that seemed to emanate from the very depths of his being. "Mr. Silas," Asher stated, his voice even, "Ilara is under my care now. You are not to approach her again. If you do, I will ensure the authorities are involved." Mr. Silas, caught in the unexpected spotlight of Asher's unwavering gaze and the silent judgment of the small crowd, visibly deflated. The carved bird slipped from his fingers, falling soundlessly to the ground. He turns slowly and retreats, his lonely figure fading into the lengthening shadows. The threat, for now, had dissolved. A hush fell over the immediate vicinity of the square. Passers-by who had paused, anticipating a loud, angry confrontation, were utterly stunned. They watched, transfixed, as a man with no blood relation to the girl made such a profound, public, and inclusive declaration of protection. It wasn't just his words, it was the way he had signed to Ilara, validating her, embracing her in her own language, and then turning to face the perceived threat with such quiet, unyielding resolve. The shock rippled through the small crowd. They had expected fury, a chase, perhaps even a struggle. Instead, they witnessed a moment of dignified, unwavering commitment, a man stepping forward with a paternal instinct so powerful it transcended all expectations. It was a promise of sanctuary, delivered with such grace and fortitude that it left everyone deeply moved. That afternoon in the town square was more than just an incident. It was a turning point. A single act of courage had sent ripples through Havenwood, changing lives and forging unexpected bonds. Asher didn't just stop there. He took Ilara home, explaining everything to a tearful, profoundly grateful Lena. Lena's initial shock quickly turned to remorse, realizing how her own exhaustion had kept her from seeing Ilara's silent distress. But beneath the remorse was an overwhelming sense of relief and gratitude for Asher's unwavering protection. In that moment, a shared understanding solidified between the two parents, a bond born of crisis and compassion. From that day forward, Asher and Amant consciously integrated Ilara more fully into their lives. Asher became Ilara's steadfast protector, her silent guardian, ensuring she never felt alone or vulnerable again. Shared dinners, park outings where Ilara was visibly more at ease, Amani continuing to patiently teach Ilara new signs, and Ilara, in turn, sharing her artistic perspective with them. It wasn't just an act of kindness, it was the quiet formation of a new, extended family, built on understanding and mutual support. Asher, true to his word, ensured the authorities were involved, detailing Mr. Silas's persistent behavior. While not an arrest for an explicit crime, it established a record and ensured Mr. Silas was discreetly cautioned. Slowly, almost imperceptibly, Mr. Silas's presence in Havenwood's public spaces waned. Perhaps he quietly left town, or simply understood the new watchful eye of the community. The important thing was that Ilara's safety was secured, not through a dramatic confrontation, but through diligent, responsible action. The incident became a quiet talking point in Havenwood. It wasn't gossip, but a shared understanding, a heightened sense of communal responsibility, especially towards vulnerable individuals. Neighbors became more observant, more connected, a gentle reminder that even in a small town, a watchful eye can make all the difference. And Ilara? Her artwork returned to its vibrant self, no longer shadowed by anxiety. She sketched Asher and Amani, the bustling town square, but this time with warmth and confidence. Her face was serene, confident. A sense of peace enveloped her. A profound bond had formed between Ilara and Asher, a silent, powerful connection that spoke of unconditional care and unwavering support. The shock of that afternoon lingered in Havenwood, not as a fleeting memory, but as a testament to the unexpected depths of human compassion and the quiet heroism of a man who saw a child in distress and without hesitation pledged his unconditional care, becoming the strong, unwavering pillar Ilara so desperately needed.
The story of Ilara and Asher isn't just about protection. It's about the profound power of truly seeing another human being, especially those whose voices are often unheard. It's a testament to the quiet strength of empathy, the fierce love of a parent, and the unexpected ways community can rally around its most vulnerable. In a world that often rushes by, caught up in its own noise, Asher Vance reminded Havenwood, and us, that sometimes the most heroic acts are born from quiet observation and unwavering compassion. It prompts us to ask, are we truly seeing those around us? Are we listening to the silent pleas, the unspoken fears that might be hidden beneath the surface of someone's day? Are we ready to be that unwavering presence, that pillar of strength for those who need it most? This story is a powerful reminder that every gesture of kindness can create a ripple effect, shaping lives in ways we can barely imagine. If this heartfelt tale touched your soul, consider subscribing to True Black Tales for more inspiring stories that reveal the extraordinary in the everyday. Have you ever witnessed or been part of a moment where quiet understanding and an act of courage made all the difference? Share your experiences and reflections in the comments below. Your stories illuminate the path for others and strengthen our community. Thank you for watching this True Black Tales story. Until next time, stay vigilant, stay compassionate, and keep those hearts open.